Welcome to the Inspiration North podcast, inspiring stories from inspirational people and how they found their passion, their true north. I'm James Eves.
And I'm Michelle Minikin, and this is the Inspiration North podcast.
Today's episode, Finding Your Authentic Voice with Carmen Rose. We talk about coming from a very musical family, hearing the beauty in anyone's voice, and what the street name would be for coffee if it was illegal.
Carmen Rose is a passionate, energetic and dedicated performer with a vocal talent stemming from her vibrant personality. With a desire to inspire, entertain and ignite joy to her audiences and students, Carmen specialises in singing, songwriting, performing and teaching. Trained in performing arts, she's had extensive experience on the UK music circuit, performing across many musical styles: gospel, rock, soul, blues, metal, country, classical and musical theatre. Carmen is enthusiastic about the success and well-being of her vocal students. She continues to learn about the voice daily and enjoys sharing her knowledge and helping people reach their goals.
So good morning to you, Carmen. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you doing?
We're all right, actually, yes. Thank you for asking. We're enjoying the sun. And it feels a bit more spring-like, doesn't it? With the sunlight drops and flowers popping out.
It's good. I've brought my spring wardrobe out now, so all the pastel shades are ready to go, and I'm quite happy about that. So, yeah.
Awesome.
So it's a sort of morning for the hills are alive with the sound of music. Break out into song.
Still a bit early, but yes.
Maybe later. Not 12 o'clock
Maybe
yet.
later. Yeah.
So if we go to our first question then, when you were little, did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up?
Yes. So when I was 6 years old, I had written down, I think it was year 2. And I had a piece of paper and I wrote down that I wanted to be an artist. So my dream was to go to St. Martin's and study art and be a visual artist. And my mum was more than happy to help me pursue that. But then I said, if I don't make it as an artist, I'll be a singer. And then what happened was that I chose my high school because of their art department. It was amazing. And I got there and it turned out that I wasn't the best artist that I could be. And I was subpar. I'm like, no, this ain't gonna fly. And then singing and music had always been in my family. We are a very musical family. My grandma on my dad's side was a professional singer in India, played the violin, had records out. And all of my family members on my mum's side, it's like ones that I didn't even think could sing. And it's like, actually, where did you turn up and like have a voice to sing? Like, where's this come from? And he's like 18 and we didn't know. So yeah, because music had always been in my household and different types of music, I just picked it up and it was just part of our culture. And then when I was 11, because that's the age where you go from like primary school into high school, I had a music teacher that picked up on the fact that I could sing. And when I went to high school and I realised that art wasn't my destiny, I was a bit hurt. I was traumatised for a tiny bit, and then I thought, well, singing. So I went full blown into that from the age of 11. So from then on, I always knew, regardless whatever came into my life, wherever I've kind of deviated to, music and singing has always been that inner drive and that part of me that I just couldn't shake and I couldn't get away from. And every time I thought, no, I could put it aside, I just found my way back to it. So yeah.
That's fascinating.
Were there any influences, any artists or groups, do you think, that were really part of your journey in exploring that, do you think? You don't have to show your age, it can be from anywhere.
Yeah. All sorts. So my mum was heavily into musical theatre and she came from a family that liked classical music, and her cousins were opera singers and things like that, but she didn't take to it too much. So we did have classical music in our house, but not so much. It was musical theatre and pop rock. She loved, the first concert she took me to was Roxette. And we had these two huge, like 6'2" guys in front of us. And I'm like, I'm little, I'm 10. And she was like, and she's tiny anyway. So, and my dad really liked country music. And then my cousin really loved R&B. So there was such an influence. And then I got into my own music. I got into reggae and like dance hall on my own when I was 8. So just moving me, like I just was like, yeah, this is cool. And then and then gospel on my own and things like that. So I was really into music, and I think for a young child I had quite mature taste. So when we went to high school, it's maybe something that I shouldn't say, but we went to high school and everyone was into Spice Girls, and I just hated them because I'm like, this isn't music, they can't sing. And so I was like singing all these R&B bands that nobody had heard of, and I thought I was so cool. But at 14 I switched and I got really into pop music. That's when you find your niche and you become cool with music. But I was topsy-turvy.
We'll be off the Christmas card list for all the Spice Girls now, unfortunately.
Yes. Well, for me, I don't mind, but for you guys, like, they're still cool. So Jerry, Emma, like, send them. Yeah, still send
It's
them.
funny. I once went to a hairdresser's and asked the hairdresser to make my hair like Jerry, and they did. Thank God no photos actually exist at that time. I think it was my first year at university. I spent loads of my student loan on my stupid haircut.
Wow, it's like Jerry. That's amazing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, not one photograph exists, which is great. Thank God I went to university pre-Facebook.
That's great.
Brilliant. So what happened after school?
So after school, I pursued. While I was at school, I had a teacher called Miss Vanstone, who didn't like my personality or didn't like me as a student, but she loved my talent. And she noticed, I know it's great. She's like, but your talent, yeah. And I actually I respected her for that. So, and she's the one who coaxed me into, she's like, you can act. She covered an English class once, and she said, you can act. And then she heard me sing. She's like, you can sing. And it was thanks to her that I pursued stage school. And then so I was involved in lots of plays. She put me in all of her plays. And we had this kind of I didn't have the character because I had talent. So I would get auditions immediately, but I didn't have the characters to sustain. I wouldn't turn up to things. But then when I went in, I'm like, I had the personality and talent. So I would just get away with things, which is bad. Yeah. There you go, yeah. And then I learned that got knocked out of me after university. I tell you, that did not fly.
Might work for Mariah Carey, but
yeah, it didn't work for me. But so I wanted to study drama and I wanted to study singing, but my mum was like, you have to go to an actual university. You can study whatever you want to study, but I don't want you to go to a drama school. So I ended up doing drama theatre studies with religious studies, which was fascinating. And then at university, I found my way to a gospel choir, and I found faith through that. Gospel choirs. But even before I was a Christian, I went to them and I said, look, I'm going to run this, so don't you worry. I was such a Gordon Bennett type A driven diva. That's I enter in, okay, I like it here, now I'm going to run this ship. So but we grew the gospel choir from when I first went to university. There was 7 people, and then by the time I left there was 150 with a mailing list of 500. So wow. I partnered with so many people felt like it was a family, and we went from being a niche society to winning awards to then being part of the university, which was great. And from there I really found my love for performing, for gospel, I fell out of love with drama because I didn't like the politics that went around the whole industry of how to get into shows. Because when I first joined university, I just rocked up again to auditions. I got the auditions, didn't have the character, but I had the talent. So I would not do well with directors. And then I saw how people were networking and it didn't sit right with me. And I kind of felt better around music and musicians, and I really loved producing events. So I became quite known at university for that. And then from there I went on to creating a business around that. And I got to perform at my own business shows, so that was great. So it's kind of two birds with one stone. I had a business partner called Keely, who truly was the driver of that business. But yeah, that's how it kind of panned out.
That's brilliant. You get so many people that want to go into sort of music or that, you know, the acting route, and it's amazing how many almost teachers say, oh, nobody succeeds in those areas, so you might as well, you know, do something else, you know, go and be a plumber instead. You know, it's interesting, like you've been able to, it's like power on through. I don't suppose you'd ever take that advice, I suppose, from somebody to say, oh, you can't do it. I'm sure you're somebody that's like, hold my beer.
Yeah, literally. I think because I had parents who, regardless, I mean, my dad was funny though. Before I went to university, he's like, so you're not studying maths? I was like, do you know me? So she's so sad. My daughter's not going to be a doctor. Yeah. I'm like, it's not. No, sorry. But my mum, my uncles, everyone. I mean, my dad was a feminist. My uncles, everyone. I come from a feminist family, and they're all about you being authentic. And whatever you do, you've got to prove yourself and you've got to be the best at it. So if you are going to do it, you make sure you do it well and be that South Indian high standard thing. Don't do something subpar. And if your heart's not in it, you will do it subpar. So that's the kind of, we weren't typically of my culture in that sense. And yes, and I think that really drove me, because whenever I did do jobs, as you're trying to run your own arts business, you got to fund your art. And then when you don't have any benefactors, you got to do loads of different things. And that's what makes you appreciate it. Secondly, whenever I have thought I could go into a different arena, I've never given it 100%, even though I've put my music, put the arts business aside. There's just something that's always brought me back. So even though I did try myself to give it up, I just couldn't.
So why did you try and give it up?
I think because I was exploring different things and I found different talents in other areas. Like it was more money to be a belly dancer. So I thought, so I really trained. I was like, I really want to be a professional dancer, but I haven't got the physique for a ballerina. So so I just thought, okay, and what do I feel right with? What music do I like? And then I went and I powered through and I became a professional belly dancer, to my mother's dismay. And I was like, Mum, I'm bringing home the bacon. Like, you could get £100 for 20 minutes. Don't worry, we're rolling in it. It's all fine. It didn't work out. And after a while, I just felt very led to run events, cultivate other artists and sing myself. That's when my soul really came alive. Dancing was just for a season. And then I got into business and business development, which I love, because I love project managing. It's kind of like writing a song. When you start, you're at the embryonic stage, and then you're really, flourishing through, and you're doing the plans, and then you're implementing, and then I love all of that. And I thought that I could do that. Music could be on the side, it's fine. And again, it only lasted for a certain amount of time, where I just felt drawn back to, I'll be like in the, finishing off projects, and then I'll just be planning an event to do with music. Yeah, so that's what it was.
got me thinking.
So I just have to stop every now and again and sort of let James speak and ask the questions.
What I like, though, is that you have gone and tried other things, and you could, excuse me, you could probably argue that in many ways these different elements of things of expressing creative energy and connecting with others and managing projects, they're all experiences that when you come back to the singing side of things, they all bring a toolkit or a suitcase of really useful skills and experience that add to the richness of what you then have to offer, is how I view it.
Succinctly put, I would have taken 3 hours to say what you had said so well. So yeah, it's exactly that. And I think that no experience is wasted. I've benefited so much. People that I've met through each experience has been phenomenal. That has led me on my path. And it's so important as an artist to learn about business, to learn about the rudiments of running things effectively and efficiently. Because when me and my business partner, when we first had our business, we were giving everything away. We're like, we love it. We're going to do it for free. That was unsustainable because I had then to work 5 jobs in order to sustain something that should have brought us dividends. So I learned from that. And yeah, it's been a great journey so far.
Yeah, it's such a skill that's not taught to people. So, a psychologist is never taught how to run a business. An artist is never taught how to run a business. It's just this thing that's all of a sudden you're like, oh, I have to run a business now. Where do I start?
Right. This is the thing. And it's like, and people can spend so much money trying to make the wrong impression. And I think for me, I'm very led by my heart. So if I feel passionate about something, I like to make it work in a business sense. Don't worry. So yeah, when I used to see that there were small businesses that have an amazing product, it's like, okay, well, let's put this together and let's see where you can save money but still make the same impact. Because of all the mistakes I've made. Right? So, and the same in packaging, like what I do with Vitality Vocals and helping artists to promote themselves in a certain way. It's a form of business. At the end of the day, they have a commodity, which is their services as singers or spoken word artists or public speakers. And how do you then promote that? How do you then put yourself out there, and how do you charge? So
that pricing, that's a tricky pricing debate. It's like, yeah. It's like, this feels like fun for me, so we shouldn't charge very much because it's fun for me. It doesn't feel like work. It's like, it's like, try to implement fun-based pricing, but I was told I wasn't allowed to, so.
Because if you think about it, it's fun for a while. Then afterwards, when it's like you're putting 80 hours of work and you're getting only 20% back, you're like, well, after a while, you kind of get tired. Whereas if there is a return of investment, then it's like, ooh, even more fun.
You can have fun and money, it turns out.
You should be able to get paid and have fun.
Yeah, well, we should do unfun pricing. So if a project's not going to be fun, then we should triple, and then we might not win it. That might be a good way of doing it.
That is a good way of doing it. And then you have your baseline just being like of what you want. And then if you've already put it up, you're like, but then what if somebody says, yeah, I'll pay you for that? Then
you do it and you just think of the money.
Yeah. True. Very true. Yeah.
Oh, dear me. Okay, so talk us through what you're doing at the moment. So with Vitality Vocals, so you help artists, you teach normal people, non-singers. Do you want to talk us through all that?
Yes, I can. So I offer 3 services within Vitality Vocals. So I offer a wellness aspect to vocal work because we are all vocalists. And have you ever felt when you can't speak, you feel a bit shut off from the world and it doesn't feel right? You don't feel like you are free to express yourself. So I look at, for every single person, whether they are, well, I try to have a cutoff age of 5, but from 5 to 85, they are welcome to come to my wellness classes on Fridays. We go through the holistic practice of how to look after your voice. So from having clarity in the mind, so we do focus techniques. It's not meditation because I'm dedicated to them, everybody, to, like, I've got my stick out now, to listen to the music, because when you listen to the music, so I have an instrumental playing and I get everyone to just breathe in and breathe out, but their concentration is on the music. Because sometimes when you let your mind float, it goes everywhere. You're still not present. You're in your head.
What are we having for tea?
Right. Awesome.
It's like, oh man, I forgot to get something out of the freezer.
There you go. And then you're like, let that thought flow, but then that thought will lead into, freezer, ice cream. Like, it could lead into all sorts. Can you tell I've given up stuff for Lent, that chocolate ice cream? Oh no. And I know, it's so bad. But yeah, so what I do is allow people to be present and teaching them, if you can imagine being present for 5 minutes. In this day and age, that's so hard to get people to be present for 10 seconds. So that is a practice to calm your mind down. And then we look at how to look after your vocal folds, because they're thin, they're just a thin layer of muscle. That is the last place that is hydrated. So even if you're drinking your 2 liters a day, if your body is slightly dehydrated in other places, your voice isn't going to get it. So we look at things like, I offer advice on how to steam your voice and things like that. And then we look at how to build your voice to be the best vocalist you can be in the wellness classes, and then give people the opportunity to sing. And really and truthfully, I'm not looking for, I see beauty, I hear beauty in every voice. Like, even somebody that thinks they're tone deaf, I'm like, no, there's something there. Like, I'm one of those people. I can hear something. And because if you are confident enough to sing in front of other people, singing is a very vulnerable practice. And if you are able to be free in your authentic voice and allow that to be heard by other people, imagine that skill being taken into other areas of your life as a transferable skill. So for me, the wellness aspect is huge. And I've seen people go off and do amazing things, and now they're singing. It's got a ripple effect, and like it's getting everyone else to sing. And then also the dopamine aspect of it, like, the fact of having that release of singing, that, it helps with serotonin levels. I get people to work out, because strong mind with the clarity exercises, strong body, we work out. So I get people doing little HIIT exercises. It's not because I have a wedding dress to fit into. It's purely like it's to do with vocals. Yeah. Okay, a little bit of both. I like to be efficient with my time. And then we get on to vocal technique. And hopefully by then we help in the wellness exercises, help people see that they can stretch their range, help people see whether they could get a bit more dynamic in terms of their expression. And it's not, because no one was taught to speak unless you've gone to elocution lessons or had singing lessons. Oh, you've been to elocution lessons? Yeah, because you've got a good voice.
Yeah, I did speech and drama lessons.
Oh, right, yeah.
Through school, so I had this, little niggle that I wanted to be an actress, but then everyone said, no.
Wow. Did that ever, did that make you feel, are you happy now looking back that had happened because of all what you're doing now, or do you feel like you could have pursued something?
I don't know, it's a good question. I think there's a certain amount of performance in our jobs anyway. Yeah. And I think being a psychologist, you almost have to play a role quite often.
Interesting.
So we spoke to somebody recently, didn't we? A researcher in Northern Ireland, big place. And he said that jobs, in organisations, the word job role was taken from the theatre. So
really?
we're all acting a part in an organisation. I thought that was really fascinating. So, yeah, I think it would have been an interesting ride. But you speak to some, you hear from some actresses and read the stuff that they've gone through, and it's probably best that I didn't get into it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not for everyone, and sometimes. But what we do like about it, we can involve it in other aspects of our life, like you have done. Do you know what I mean? I also help with, so that's the wellness aspect, which is involved because I'm a holistic practitioner when it comes to vocal work. Then we have public speaking and business development. So it is key when we're communicating to communicate well. And that doesn't mean to be polished. It means to be authentic, how to command a room and tone. Have you ever received an email thinking, I want to smack this person? Oh my gosh. But then when you speak to them on the phone, it's fine. So a tone of voice has a massive impact on people. And I think knowing how to command that tone, I wouldn't necessarily say to manipulate, but I would say in order to communicate effectively. So I help people with that in terms of whether they have a business, whether they are professionals in an organisation. So I offer that aspect too. And then I do artistic development work. So people that really want to be artists, they want to get into the industry, that's a whole different ball game. Again, the holistic aspects apply, the aspects of, effective communication apply because there's a synergy, right? We're all using the voice, but for them, they have a certain regime I implement into place because, you've got to be diligent. Different type of dynamic work, different type of singing work we do because that is something that they want to go into and helping them find their true voice and their true sound. I mean, that is throughout, but more so with artistic development.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant. We watched Annie a couple of days ago, and we've literally had the songs in my head. They're in my head, then they come out my mouth, and James has them in his head now. So yeah, we're a fairly musical household, don't we?
Yeah, it was a movie my sister always made me watch when we were little, but I hadn't probably seen it for, I don't know, 25
We went to
years.
theatre to see it.
Oh, we saw it at the theatre, but the original movie,
Yeah.
there's such talent in the girls in the orphanage, and I mean the whole cast. So it's quite a special little movie, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And it's great because I often use Annie as an example for technique work, which is, kind of forward mouth nasal singing as opposed to a Julie Andrews style. Annie is comes up a lot. All the little kids, I get them singing tomorrow. And they love it. They're like, they go for it, and they have this free voice when they sing it. So it's great. Yeah.
The Greatest Showman. We love The Greatest Showman.
Do you know what? I haven't seen it. I've only heard. I know because my other half hates musicals. And he is a musician. He's a fine musician, but he hates musicals. And we're about to watch it. And then he saw how it was, he loves the circus as well, but he saw how musical it was. And he's like, no. And then I was with my mum over Christmas and I was like, I am free. We had all the musicals on, Disney Plus on, everything. And we were trying to watch The Greatest Showman and it wasn't available. And I was like, oh.
That sucks. It's brilliant.
Really?
We've got Greatest Showman quotes all around our room. Yeah, because we really like it.
The singing is stunning. Wow. And the cinematography of what I've seen of it. But now I'm going to have to go
you
on.
have to put it in your list. Just put your headphones on.
Yeah, I'm going to use these. Now I know how to use the volume.
And my other favourite is Hamilton. We went to see that. Honestly, it's brilliant. It's on Disney Plus. You can watch it.
Yeah, I'm going to watch it on Disney Plus. Definitely.
It was brilliant, wasn't it? It was such an experience
because we literally had absolutely no idea what this was about. It's like Hamilton could have been about a dude with some elephants going across the Alps. It could have been anything. It's not about elephants or Alps.
No.
But it was such...
It wasn't quite the when you go to the theatre, you know, there's almost a persona of
theatre
who
goers.
goes to see a musical at the theatre. It's all very polite and wonderful applause and everything, and everybody's whooping and singing along and dancing in the aisles.
It was
It's
brilliant.
like, what have we walked into here? It was great.
It's
really
great.
Yeah.
The music. We watched a documentary on Hamilton, and again, the singing is absolutely stellar. It's fantastic, and then just the way one of the directors, the playwright, wrote it and how he had it in his head. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done that before, where you've gone off the train and you're just like trying to record. And I was like, and I can't believe that from that he created this incredible masterpiece. And it was such a weird subject, like a hip hop version of the story of Hamilton. And you're like, you've got imagination, dude. Like, that's amazing.
Brilliant. It was brilliant.
Yeah. One of my favourite singing coaches online, Cheryl Porter, she was the vocal coach for some of the cast from Hamilton. And that's really interesting work what she did with them. But yeah, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. I'm going to watch it now.
Yeah.
Those are two.
Here we go. We're brilliant for book and movie recommendations.
Good to know. You are my go-to now.
We always give people homework as well, don't we? Yeah. Can't help myself. I'm like you. I can always spot the potential in somebody, and I can always figure out what it is, what, you know, book or movie or what it is that'll really help. And James was hilarious, so I tried for a year to get him to watch The Greatest Showman.
Oh, so you were reluctant too, James.
It was like,
why?
No.
I don't know whether I'd not seen enough about it or whether I was being forced to watch something. I don't know. So it's rebelling.
Yeah.
It's like my other half.
He's a Taurus, so I don't know whether that's got something to do with it.
But one night you got to put it on, and I was like, okay, fair enough. And I still remember at the end saying, I can't believe you haven't made me watch this sooner. It was so good.
Go on, you were saying?
He did the same with Bohemian Rhapsody as well. He did not want to watch that. It's like, watch it.
It's so good. Bohemian Rhapsody was amazing.
Such emotion watching them. It's really quite special, and it's I think some of the messages, I always draw the messages out of some of these things of struggle and striving, and that sometimes having talent can be a hindrance. Sometimes people don't get it, don't see it, don't know what to do with it. I mean, even just I love the conversation where they're talking about, it's a great song, Bohemian Rhapsody, but it's like over 6 minutes long. You know, we need it to be cut at 3. And it's like, well, it ain't going on the radio then if you don't. I'm an artist, darling. You know, this is as long as this is perfection in its entirety, and I'm not having you chop it up.
That's really bold, and that's what I like about him, because, you know, a lot of people will give into industry by saying 3.33 seconds, you know, that is the industry standard. And I love the fact that they stood their ground. And a lot of people said that, what is this? Like, it won't even get played. It's very niche, but now it's like, what, a cult classic it is. That's hit our generation. Yeah, he's a marvelous artist. I'm glad you enjoyed that, because I thought it was really well done as well. I really enjoyed the
No, it was I let my 11-year-old watch it with me the first time, and I was a bit like, oh, it's going to ask, you know, there's going to be some questions after this, and we had some really, really good discussions, shall we say.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, 11 is probably a good age to discuss some of the things that happen in the
You don't want them to learn things from the schoolyard, do you?
No, at least it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen in our household. So
So what's the plan for the future, Carmen?
So there are two plans which coincide. So it is to grow Vitality Vocals. My goal and dream is for... It's big. I want it to be a household name. I want it to be something that people do on a regular, you know, that they have Headspace app. I want in the future, I don't know how to process it now, but I'm in the process of creating my own warm-ups and my own vocal program. And for people to do it and also to charge a reasonable price, because I do find within my industry of vocal coaching that I paid astronomical prices. My teachers were worth it. They are fantastic. But I do want the everyday person getting involved in looking after their vocal health and finding joy in singing and finding joy in using their voice. So for me, creating a platform where people can download my material and use it and bring joy. Also running events, so 3 events a year with Vitality Vocals, and growing the business to the point where, you know, I will have other tutors working with me under the brand and being really passionate about it, because I think it's not just a job as a singing teacher, you know, it's about empowering people to use their voice and speak their authentic truth. So for Vitality Vocals, that's definitely something I want to pursue. And then my own music. So I have my Carmen Rose music, and I've created 3 very out there songs that apparently are not commercial, but they're all about social issues. So one of them talks about it's like, one's called Make Me Beautiful, one song, and it's about how no matter how much we adorn ourselves with different things in terms of beauty, it's like if you don't feel it on the inside, it's not going to help. So it's just like a satirical song, which is quite operatic. And then another one is about like alcoholism and domestic violence. It's all dark, but they're based on, you know, a country style, a folk style of singing. And then the other one is about appreciating yourself when it comes to relationships and expecting that appreciation. So those are a bit different, but they've got a fun kick to it. You can dance to them. So there's the contrast, you see. Dark lyrics, upbeat song. So, and hopefully, like, to promote those, make music videos out of them, and then progress in that and intertwine. So to have events where I am helping other artists succeed and giving them a platform, as well as performing at those events myself. So that's the plan.
It's brilliant. It's exciting.
It really is.
Yeah.
It took me back to, I'm sure I've talked about this on an earlier podcast, might have been Joe's podcast, I think it was number 6, where at university in France, we had one of the subjects we took was, I think translated literally, sort of oral expression techniques.
Yeah.
And the lady they brought in was an actress, but she came into schools and universities to say, you potentially are all future managers, future leaders in business. And on a stage, at a podium, in front of a team, you are like an actor or an actress. And you are presenting a message, a vision, getting people excited about something, communicating clearly with a clear voice, good enunciation, and getting people excited about doing something. And I really liked that at the time. And she had us acting out pieces in the final exam. So I was pretending to be a journalist who was a reporter for the Tour de France cycle race, getting all excited, but I was in the wrong town, so couldn't understand why they hadn't arrived yet. And it was, she chose things that got people out of their comfort zones.
Amazing.
So I was a bit more shy and retiring than I normally am in my normal usual self. And she would get people to do something, read a poem, do something that really pushed them. But I really liked that element of, we all perform or have to communicate in a certain way in whichever role you're doing. Teacher, whether you're asking for the tickets on the train tickets, please. All the way down the carriage. We all need a good voice.
Has to carry. Yeah, it has to. You've got to have that resonance and that pitch to carry.
I have the other problem. Then I need volume control on my voice. It's like me and my friend Jo sitting in like a restaurant or a pub, and literally everybody can hear our conversation.
I feel you, Michelle. People, it's great that I'm on Zoom now because people could just put me on mute. Whereas, no matter how many hand signals, I'm like, oh yeah, I get it now. I should be more aware. But yeah, I completely agree with you, James. I think it is important, and I feel more instead of the word role, even though role is a very powerful word, it is that idea of effective communication and. Communicating to people in a way that they'd understand and understanding personality types. If you're talking to a very driven director that only has 5 minutes, they do not want all the information analytically spoken. But if you're talking to a compliance driven person, they want to know all the details until they make a rational decision. So it's like, how do you communicate with that? And that it helps in sales as well. So I've had some sales representatives that come to me and we work that through, thinking, okay, who are you talking to? And to tailor that accordingly. And I think once we understand, and it's not about being inauthentic. You're still you, but you're just adapting who you're talking to because you want the message to hit home, which you guys do beautifully. Like, I think, it really do. It's so true. But I'm honest, that's the thing. Like, I speak truth.
Yeah. I get into trouble with that as well.
Yeah.
So that's a spade.
But do you know what? I think because when you're like that, you just appreciate that in people, isn't it? Like what you see is what you get, and you don't have to spend like 20 hours trying to figure out, is it this, is it that? I ain't got time for that.
Nobody's got time for that.
Exactly.
So we're going to ask you our questions, our quick fire questions. So questions you haven't seen before. So James, do you want to take away number one?
So question number one. So after the podcast, I can get on the phone and can arrange for you to perform anywhere and to anyone in the world. Where and whom do you choose?
Oh my gosh. I do have two. Is it okay to share two?
That's fine.
Okay. Okay, so Madison Square Gardens. And I want it to a massive sellout audience, and I would love if see, these people aren't very famous, but they're famous to me. So a gospel artist called Eddie James were to join me, a band called Hot 8 on the stage with me. And if Beyonce happens to be in the audience and wants to come and do a cameo, I don't mind. Do you know what I mean? So that's big. Those are like huge dreams.
Yeah.
Look me up, James. This is a great connection we have here. And the second one is Glastonbury. I don't know why. I've always wanted to perform in Glastonbury, and that feeling of a festival and sharing my artwork with people that are just jumping around. Hopefully it'll be a sunny day. So those are two places I'd love to perform at.
Awesome. Okie dokie, thank you for that. Question number two is, what was your favourite book as a child?
Oh, that's a very powerful question. I have to think about this one. What was my favourite book? I really liked The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe growing up. It was, cult classic, but I really enjoyed it as a kid. I found, it's very powerful.
The more recent movies are good for those as well, if you've not seen those.
Oh, I've got halfway through and then I had to stop for some reason. Like, I'm really bad at my movie watching. Before I used to be great. Like, I need to get... So there's 3 recommendations I need to fulfill.
So question number 3. If coffee was illegal, what would its street name be?
What would I call it if coffee were illegal? I would be so I would be so blatant. That's why my friends never got me involved in any of their shenanigans, because we get caught, because I'm like, oh, hello, I just call it hot mocha, like, because it's hot to touch, because it's illegal, and it's mocha. So yeah, like, as in shock, like, yeah, dark.
That might be a fun question for LinkedIn.
It would be, right? My friend used to call it crack in a cup whenever I used to drink coffee. She's like, she would never drink it. I'm just like, it's crack in a cup. I'm like, no, it's like, I love it.
Go ahead.
It's like, could that be the title of this podcast?
My laugh, giddy on.
What were you going to say, James?
I suppose if it was illegal, then you wouldn't have people up in the back of a van with jars of Nescafe and Nespresso in the boot, looking dodgy in a Aldi car park somewhere at 10 o'clock at night. Got any hot mocha, mate?
Cracking a cup.
Cracking a cup. We get caught immediately.
Yeah,
found out.
They hear us.
Yeah, that's it.
So, the question we ask all our guests: if we could get you in a time machine, take you back to have a conversation with your 18-year-old self, what advice would you give to you?
I would say, do your best. Don't give up. And don't allow other people's opinions to be your idol, because what you think about, and trust your gut. Because often when I was a child, I would feel something, I'd be very determined to do it, but then I would listen to other people and then get swayed. Mm-hmm. I'd also say to myself, chocolate isn't everything. I may offend some people out there. And take your health seriously, you know, like, and yeah, appreciate yourself as you appreciate others. So those are things that I would definitely have said to myself.
Thank
Lovely
you.
messages, yes. So for our listeners, if you'd like to follow Carmen or get in touch, go to her website, vitalityvocals.com, and look in the show notes for some of the social media handles as well.
Cool. Well, thank you ever so much for speaking to us. It's been really interesting getting to know you better, and it's fascinating that the work you do. So, and I think much needed in the world. So keep going.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. You guys are amazing, and I love what you're doing, and I love how you're promoting other people and giving them a platform, which is great. So thank you so much.
Thanks everyone for listening. Check out all the show notes at inspirationnorth.com. Join us again for the next episode, when we'll be chatting to another inspirational person. If you like this, subscribe and tell your friends. If you didn't like this, subscribe anyway and tell everybody.